Yes, sir.
Come on in the room.
Yeah, that's a good song. Yes, sir.
Come on in the room.
Yeah, that's a good song. Yes, sir.
Come on in the room.
Yeah, that's a good song.
Hey, 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 welcome, 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 and good evening to all of you. Listen, we are here, Kingdom Conversations. Listen, Kingdom Couples. I'm excited tonight because I have two amazing, amazing people who I admire very much. But before I get to them, I want to give a shout out to some of our sponsors. But before we get to our sponsors, I got to shout out my queen, my best friend, the love of my life, the best part of me, the good God and my Lord have mercy. My queen, T.
You forgot my name?
No, baby. No, because I'm so used to saying babes. I was like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. I was like, it's been too long now.
Lord have mercy. I'm messing up already, y'all. Pastor T, come on, baby. Just greet the people.
Hello, everyone. I'm just so excited to be able to share this platform with my husband. So I'm excited to be here. I know we have some awesome people who are going to have some awesome conversation on tonight. And so just get ready. And look, like and share.
Please like and share,
Yes.
like and share, like and share. So we want to thank our sponsors. Thank you to T. Bryan Graphics for making sure that we look good on screen, making sure our graphics work is done. Thank you to 13, Mr. Justice Bryan, for that amazing soundtrack. Thank you to Frankie Branch of I Am Media for making sure that we had that great video. Thank you to Juice Jania Bryant, for making sure that we look good on screen. You know what I'm saying? With the shea butter, we're not ashy and looking all crazy on screen. So we're grateful for that. So with all of that being said, I need to just kind of lay the groundwork for this amazing couple right here. So I was on Facebook some years ago, and I was happening, and I saw this guy with this hat on, and very well-known person in the DMV area. I'm not going to mention names because I'm not, name dropper like that, but very, very well-known person out of the DMV area, someone that I do know. And I was like, wow. And I inboxed him. I was like, man, where did you get that hat from? And he was like, man, my stylist, man, this, Mike Johnson. He was like, man, you got to go check this brother out. So I immediately went to his page, and I'm like, I hit him with the Scooby-Doo. And I'm looking and looking, and I told my wife, I said, babe, I'm going here. I'm going to get me a hat. And the rest has been history. History. Do you understand me? History. Okay, I'm sorry. Am I going back? Am I going in?
No, you good.
Okay,
you good.
All right. But I met this brother, and what I love about him and his wife, he is a brother for real. I love the fact that I can pick up the phone at any time and call him and talk to him about anything, and he always has a word of wisdom for me. And I love the fact that he's gonna give it to me straight, no chaser. He ain't gonna pull no punches. His wife, I love her because She is soft spoken, but she watches, and she is just an amazing jewel. I love them and watching them, and I look up to them. You know, I never told Mike this, but I really do look up to them and the love that they share. So with all that being said, I want to introduce to you Michael and Stephanie Johnson. Listen, that was just real brief. Well, won't you guys come on in, introduce yourself, and tell the people a little bit about you guys?
Hello, everyone. I want to say thank you again to Jermaine and to Lita for inviting us on to be with you all tonight. I'm Stephanie Johnson. I'm here with my husband, Michael Johnson. We've been together married 28 years now. We have 3 beautiful children. And we love the Lord, and we love each other, and we love giving back whenever we get an opportunity. So we're looking forward to the conversation on this evening.
Yep, I'm Mike Johnson, the second half of this combination. I'm also Reverend Johnson as well. I typically don't mention that because I don't want people to change how they begin to speak or act. I'd rather them prefer that they just be who they are and they find out after the fact. But since we're on with Pastors Jay and Toledo President, I want to make sure that I make that known. Matter of fact, let me just get this all the way right. Reverend Mike Johnson. I attend Allen Chapel AME Church, where my pastor is the Reverend Michael Bell Sr., who is actually running for bishop over at Allen Chapel in Southeast DC. So shout out to the Allen Chapel family. Shout out to my pastor, Michael E. Bell Sr., and to the AME Church. So I just want to make sure I'm fully correct when I do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys, when I think about kingdom, right? And then we're talking about kingdom couples. I want to tap into this area tonight of marketplace anointing, because you guys epitomize marketplace anointing. Mike, so why don't you set the tone and give the people the backstory, and then bring us up to date of how JL Michael Customs Clothier got started, and how did you get there?
Yeah, so on top of being an ordained reverend, of course, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, but I'm also an entrepreneur and business owner here in the DMV. And I've been a serial entrepreneur. So I started out, how I got to JL Michaels is first through CSM, CSM Inc. CSM Inc. was Sierra, Stephanie, and Michael, or Sierra, Courtney, Sydney, Stephanie, Michael.
Yes.
Our children's names plus our name in this business. And we literally started out, man, probably almost close to 30 years ago. Wow. And I started out with bubblegum machines. So you remember it used to be a time, yeah, I'm going to talk about it. So remember, it used to be a time when you would go into like, what was it, Subway. You can see the little bubblegum machines in the back, the little candy machines. You put like 25 cents, you turn it, you can get little whatever. So we started out with that, man. We started out with 1 machine, then we went to 6 machines. And then we elevated the business, and we literally went from that. We got rid of that, and we upgraded to soda machines and snack machines, and had those throughout the DMV at different schools and businesses throughout the DMV. And that's how we kind of graduated and did that. And then we also got into school uniforms, and this is a real funny thing, right? So what happened was, one year, my children, because you got to imagine, we got 3 daughters, and they're only 2 years apart. So they're in school all at the same time. We started our youngest daughters at 3 and our oldest daughter at 4. Okay. So by the time my oldest daughter was 5, all 3 of the girls were ready to go to school. And so we knew we wanted to put them in private school, but we couldn't afford private school. So the Lord dropped it in my spirit, why don't you start selling school uniforms? So I was like, oh, that'd be a good idea. But then the Lord said, do this. Go to the school and propose to them that you sell school uniforms to them, right? And they could keep all the profits except for $1 from each sale in exchange for our daughters going to school for a whole school year for free. Books, everything included.
Wow.
So the school was like, okay, so you only want $1 profit from the whole sale of the school uniform. That's it. And we get to send our girls to school for free for the whole school year, books, everything included. So I'd have 0 tuition, and I still make $1 off of every product that was sold, right? So that went over really well. So we did that for 2 years. So it worked out really good. And then we decided to move the girls to a different school. And when we did that, we went to the school and said, hey, why don't you allow us to put our soda and snack machines in your school since y'all need these kinds of things? So they was like, bet, we'll do it. And we didn't have to pay them anything because it was a service to them. They wanted that service in the school anyway. And we got to keep 100% profit. Now, I couldn't send them to school free. By that time, I was okay. So after doing that, we did that for a few years. And I decided, it's getting a little risky and dangerous because that's an all cash business. People see you coming in and out of places, you get into a routine, you got to fix a machine, you got to maintenance, whatever. And Steph was like, I can maintenance the machine. And I was like, no, that's too dangerous because sometimes there's thousands of dollars in these machines that people are watching, they can rob you. So I just said, you know what, we got to do away with it. So in 1999, a good friend of mine who was in the IT business said, hey man, I think you would do well in IT. Now I had just started taking some IT courses because the internet hadn't yet been born, right? It was on the cusp of being born. And he was saying, hey, we're working on these projects to bring up something called the internet. So I was kind of hearing a buzz about it. So I was like, all right, well, tell me about it. So he told me about it. I said, man, I have zero experience in IT. He said, don't worry about it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna shout him out, Reggie Jones, good friend of mine, love this man. Because he is probably responsible for what you see in me right now as an entrepreneur, right? Wow. So he said, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. I'm going to get you ready for an interview, and I'm going to help you get the job. I said, man, you sure we can do it? He said, yeah, and we're going to do it in 3 months. I said, are you positive? He's like, man, I got you. Don't worry about it. 3 months. At the end of 3 months, I went in, I interviewed, got the job. It wound up being the turning point in my life. I'm talking about, you ever heard somebody say go from nothing to something overnight? Right. That's literally what happened. My salary increased 100% in that one move. Wow. That's how good God is. You can't tell me God can't do things in 60 seconds. I've seen it done many and multiple times. But in any event, I went on to do that. And while I was in the IT business, I started out as an employee. And another guy on the job, and this is how God, look at how God works all the way through my life. So I'm on this job and I'm doing well. A guy comes to me and say, hey man, you need to own your own IT business. I'm like, what? And I've only been in IT now for 2.5, 3 years. He said, Mike, you're making good money, but you're not making money yet. And I said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? He said, you asked, because I'd asked him, how do you go on vacation 5 times a year? But his wife didn't work. And he had 2 kids. And they was doing Disney World 2-3 times. I don't know if you know how much Disney World costs. But Disney World is expensive. Right. They did the land cruise, they did the land part, the cruise part, and they went out of the country something. Every year, 5 weeks this dude was out. I couldn't barely take off for 1 week, and he was doing it for 5. And I asked him about it, and he said, I'm gonna teach you how to go into business. I'm gonna teach you how to do this, and this. So we got to talking. Probably about 2 years later, I get laid off, right? And the thing was, and he and I having that conversation, he would told me then, he said, Mike, this business is very funny. You can be up today, down tomorrow. He said, I'm gonna tell you something. Don't spend all your money. Save as much money as you can, because when you get laid off, you don't want this to be a bad surprise to where you got to go home and try to figure out how you're going to do things. So in having that conversation with him, when they laid me off, it was no shock to me. I was cool. I made it through 4 layoffs, and they gave me a package. So when they laid me off, I was good for about a year. Now, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I mean, I don't have to struggle, I don't have to worry. So 2 months after that, I wound up getting a job. That job paid me 30% more than what I had just made when I got laid off. And so that kept happening. I got laid off 2 or 3 times. And most people, when they get laid off, they got nervous. When I got laid off, this is going to sound crazy to people, it's the honest to God truth, I got excited. Because I knew every time I was getting laid off, God was going to shift my life again. I did a $30,000 jump one time. I did a $50,000 jump the next time. And I did a $60,000 jump the next time. Now, I'm not talking about 30,000 to 20,000. I'm talking about 30,000 one time, then add 50 to that, then add 60 to that. That's what I'm talking about. So not 30 to 20 and then 50 to no. That was all on top. Now, that was a crazy thing to have happen to me. And so I started realizing, okay, I need to do something more. And so I finally decided, let me incorporate my business to go even higher. And when I did it, the money was just unbelievable. It was crazy. And so I actually opened JL Michaels Custom Clothiers at the 12-year mark in my 20-year career of IT. And so I opened it, Jermaine and Talita, as honest to God, it was something I always wanted to do. I've always loved fashion my whole entire life, always. And I told Steph I wanted to do this. And she was very, very supportive in me going to do it. The one thing that's crazy about it, the location I'm in right now, you guys have been, I don't know how many times. When I first went to look at it, it wasn't what you see today. It was a dump. The ceiling was falling down, the floors was tore up, the hallway, you couldn't really walk up the steps. It was no lights in there. Electrical wires was hanging all over the place. Trash was everywhere. It smelled horrible. And I told her, I love it. I absolutely
love it. Are you serious?
Yes, I was in love when I first saw it. I said, God had given me a vision for it in 10 seconds. Everything y'all see in there, I saw at that moment. While they saw trash, I saw treasure. I saw the whole thing in my mind. God had mapped it out, everything. So I wound up leaving IT for about a year so I could get this business up and running. And I discovered, and I want to share this with business owners, you don't have to quit your job to pursue your dream. And I wound up letting one business go that was taking care of me to go into a business that I thought would take care of me, but it couldn't. This is JL Michaels now. And so I didn't have enough clientele. And so I did it for a year and I traveled, went to different places, got my clientele up, and it still wasn't enough. So I went back to IT again, which was God just blessed me. At that time, I remember Obamacare?
Yeah.
When Obamacare, so Obamacare had 2 iterations. The first iteration, I don't know if y'all remember, it bombed horribly. And so it was right at that time where I was like, I'm gonna get back into the IT market. A company called me and said, hey, we want to bring you on for this new project. I had heard about Obamacare and I was very skeptical because I knew it was bad, but I also knew too, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So I wound up going back.
Mike, you talking good, man.
Listen, I'm just trying to tell you, this is my testimony. I knew it was going to be a risk, right? The people wouldn't let me come in with my own business. So you got to come in as an employee. Now, I hadn't been an employee of nobody's business in probably 15, almost 16 years. And I said, okay, I'll come back, but I'm coming back on these conditions. So I went back, the team that I was on, I actually helped lead the team. And I had probably about 200 people that reported to me all over the place, all over the world, whole 9 yards. So let me just tell you, I was a senior program manager, software development, by the way. I don't know if I've shared this with you guys before, but I was a senior software development program manager. That's what I did. So I helped develop, this software that you see in phones and whatever the case is, some really high tech stuff. So I wound up going to this company and we got in business and we wound up doing 2.0 and it was successful. As soon as it was successful, or when I knew it was going to launch, I put my resume back up before it launched. So by the time it launched, I had people asking me about what was I doing. And I could tell them I'm working on Obamacare. But as soon as Obamacare 2.0 was a success, phone ringing off the hook. Told them, bye-bye, I'm gone. I can't do this employee thing no more. My salary, just the honest to God truth, went up $100,000 once I got out of there. Because I sacrificed for about a year just to get that going so I could go back into IT. And it's been that way ever since. Fast forward a little bit, we're talking because our twin daughters are now going to college. They're first year in college. And I'm at my last year, I'm at SiriusXM. I'm doing well. I'm working in DC and New York at the same time. So I got office in New York, got one in DC. Did that for almost 5 years. I'm back and forth every week to New York. Every week. Every week I'm back and forth.
I can guess why you loved it, Stephanie.
It gets tiring going back and forth. So I told her, I said, I'm tired of IT now. I don't necessarily want to do all this travel. And it just so happens that contract was ending. And I was like, okay, cool. So I had gotten another contract, but the money was so much less. It was like $50,000 less. I was like, I don't want to drive to Bethesda to make $50,000 less. I'm going to be unhappy. I told her, I said, you know what? I think I want to just do the clothing business for the rest of my life now. The girls are in school. We're in a good place. I think I can make it work. And she was the one that said to me, I know it can work. because I was nervous. I was like, we got this house, we got these cars, we got, you know, I got to pay for this other business stuff. I got to do all these different things. And I don't know. And she said, well, we can downsize, we can sell the cars. I don't care. We can do whatever. As long as you're doing what you're happy you're doing, I know it's going to work. And she was the one that convinced me to go ahead and do it, because I'm going to tell you, I was really nervous because I knew how much money I was making. She knew how much money I was making, you know, and we was doing what we was doing. And so this was the faith walk. When God says, I've given it to you, now what are you going to do?
Wow.
And so I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this leap of faith. And so I did that. And probably in 3 months, I had more business than I ever had in J.L. Michaels. And it never stopped. It just kept growing and kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And because I had built that clientele up, I already had it. I just went back to them and said, hey, I'm full time now. I'm going to keep doing this. That was 5 years ago. But let me just tell you this. In year number 2 of operating J.L. Michaels full time, I'm rolling. I'm doing my thing, minding my business. I get a phone call that says, hey, the Silver Fox Squad is going to be in Baltimore, and Jermaine, they need hats. So they called me. They said, man, we seen you online. You're in the DMV. Can you come out and bring us some hats? We got this big shoot. It's the first shoot, by the way, that they're doing as a group. They hadn't done one yet. So they're all coming together, and they're coming to Baltimore to do it. So I was like, absolutely, I'll come on and do it. I get out to Baltimore. I meet the guys, sell some hats. We having a great time. I'm out there with them for about 3 hours. We just talking, chopping it up, right? So I leave. 15 minutes later, I get a phone call. Now I'm driving from Baltimore back to DC, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Because I just left. Is something wrong? Was one of the hats messed up? In my mind, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking something's messed up, because why are you calling me just 15 minutes later? So, same night. And so one of the guys who initially contacted me said, hey, Mike, Irvin Randall, that's the founder of the group. He wants to talk to you. So I'm like, oh, of all the hats that can be messed up, why is it his hat that's messed up? Right? In my mind, that's in my, see, this is how the devil gets you. This is how the devil gets you, right? That's what I'm thinking in my mind. So I'm saying to him, man, so what's going on? He said, no, Mike, he said, I think this call might change your life. So I'm like, does he have a lottery ticket I don't know about that he can give me some money?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he gets on the phone, he calls me, he says, hey man, listen, I was talking to the guys and we're looking for another member for the group. Me, I'm thinking to myself, okay, all right. And he says, we voted. I said, okay, cool. He said, you're in the group. I said, what? He said, yeah, you're in the group. I said, man, I didn't even know I was in the running. He said, we saw you, you vibe with us, you are a perfect fit for this group. And I said, I wasn't even like, he said, I know. He said, it just so happens that you are a perfect fit for this group. And would you like to join? I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. Right? So that was 4 years ago.
Wow.
Now, I said all that to say this, I had to trust God every single step I took to do that. Yeah. But I also had to have my wife trust me, believe me, that I could get it done. Because I could not have gotten it done without her believing and supporting me in this. Because it's a lot of work. Now, it's a lot of things I didn't talk about, but she can fill in the blanks. But it takes a lot of work to make all of this work, right? So for those who are not familiar, I am a member of the Silver Fox Squad. I've been a member now for 4 years, and some of you may have seen it. Some of you may know who we are. We're a little group that travel the country, do some things here and there. And had I not trusted God with all these different things, I wouldn't be here today. And as a result, you know, of being in a Silver Fox Squad, because my wife always said, she said, you just need a platform so people can see what you can do. And so you can showcase your abilities. Lo and behold, man, I couldn't ask for this group. I feel like God made it just for me to be a part of, because I get a chance to showcase all of who I am in terms of what I can do, versatility in clothing, designing, so forth and so on. And again, I say that to say, man, one feeds the other. I've been featured all over the place, all over the world, all kinds of publications on television, all over the internet, you know, because I just trusted God with each of these steps. But again, I had somebody who believed in me. And I don't want to leave my children or my family, because they've all been big supporters, but my wife has been my biggest support. And I say that because there were times when I really wanted to just give up. You know, it's tough being an entrepreneur. the money don't always meet. People think that, you know, it always just falls in line. That doesn't always fall in line. And you got to believe, even when you don't have it, that it's still coming. And that all the other things, the provisions that God said he would provide, things he said he would do, he would do. And on top of that, still be in ministry, have family, and, you know, maintain all this other extra publicity and extra eyeballs. You know, you still got all of these things as well you got to contend with and deal with. And, you know, that's how we get to J.L. Michaels, man. And this is how a lot of people have come to know J.L. Michaels is through. And I thank God, thank you, Jesus, for that platform, because it took my profile to a place I never thought it would go. I didn't, be honest with you, I never had dreams or aspirations of being in the Silver Fox Squad. I know, in fact, I knew a person who was in the squad. So that kind of, you know, I kind of had some affiliation and I could kind of see what they were doing, but that wasn't, you know, most people, you know, were hitting the herb up to try to do it and do some other things. But my story is a little different only because I came across them that way. Now, I said all to say this, I love being a member of the Silver Fox Squad. I absolutely do. I absolutely love it. I want to thank Irvin Randall. I don't know if he's going to see this or not. And all my Silver Fox Squad brothers, shout out to them. But yeah, that's how we get to J.L. Michaels, and that's how this ship is rolling.
That is wow. Such an amazing story. And as you were telling, you know, your testimony and just how you all got to where you all are, I didn't realize we have known you just about 4 years. Yep. Like it was, when I think back to it, it was like coming right out of the pandemic. I think
it absolutely was.
Right in the middle of the pandemic. When he came across your page, and just immediately he started sending me stuff. And so I did not know, we talked to you on so many occasions, even just over the weekend. We were there. So, but to hear like the progression and the transition and all of the years of, you know, just the work that you put into it. And people, you know, would tend to think, oh, he just arrived, when there's actually been history. You know, there's history. And so one of the things that and I shared this with you on Saturday, one of the things that I have to admire is your wife, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I have to, and I have to honor her, I should say. And I did say on the weekend that I admire her because all of these things that you have been through, right? The businesses, the transitions, you know, you said it was your faith in God, and you gave, you know, honor to your wife. You know, I think that's so major, because every step of the way she has held you down and held the family, and even doing her own thing. And so I give props, because where you are now, I said to you on Saturday, you have to have a strong, secure woman who can handle, you know, all of that comes towards you, especially now. Yeah. Especially now, since you are part of the Silver Fox Squad. But Stephanie, can you just speak to like how it has been for you as his wife, you know, helping to be that force behind him, that believes in him and says, you know what, you can do whatever you say you want to do, and I'm here to help you.
So thank you for that. I appreciate you saying that. So I got saved when I was 14 years old. And right after I got saved, they had a workshop for young women. And in that workshop, they told us to write down what we wanted in a husband. So I wrote down not what you hear women talking about today. Oh, he got to look like this. You need to make this. None of those things. I wrote things about his character, his integrity, him honoring God, him covering me. I wrote things like this about what I wanted in a man. Now, fast forward to 17, when I met Mike, and he was the only young man at that party with a dress shirt on, and tennis shoes, and
so he was dressing back then too.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, he was dressing back then, and I was like, wow, this person out of you know all of these people in our age group looks nothing like the typical teenage person. So as we got to know each other, and God began to reveal to me, well, first I saw two things in him that stood out: his determination and his ambition. And I knew then even back when he was a 19-year-old. With his determination and ambition, with us together, God will take us far. And then the Holy Spirit spoke to me. God is going to take you all to places you would never imagine, and you will have to share your husband with the world. Now, I didn't know what that meant at that time.
Right.
I was thinking maybe he'd be a public official or something like that. But I wasn't thinking it would be what it is today. And I say all that to say, I saw in him way back then, and we're only scratching the surface now. God has so much more for us to do. And yes, you do have to be confident in yourself as a woman, as a spouse. If you are with a person that's in a public space, man or woman, because it is a huge pull on that individual and on your family. It takes away a lot of time and space from what normal people probably will be doing together. So, but I have a huge community, and I entertain myself very well. So,
Yeah, we
as
got
you
some
would
good.
say, yeah.
Yeah, we have some good friends. I try to make sure that we keep our circle pretty tight. Because just doing what I do, I know sometimes, people will come at you, but they'll do it
Yes.
indirectly. So I make sure that she's covered while I'm doing what I do.
Yeah.
And then she's in good hands, so I can do because I tell her all the time, we'll talk about, like, she wants to travel with me someplace. I'm like, I don't think this is a good trip to go on. Not because I don't want you there, but it takes away from me being able to do what I got to do, because I'm not focused on doing what I got to do now. I'm looking for her. I'm looking to see where she is. I'm looking to make sure nobody's bothering her, making sure that, there's nothing going on around her that she might be harmed or hurt. And so it makes it hard for me to function in doing that. Even if I was doing something else, it would be the same thing. But in that,
It is.
it's just hard to do. And she knows, because I took her with me one time.
Because I'm friendly, and people normally try to attach themselves to me. And he's like, well, we're in a space now where, while that may have been okay before, now people might have some insidious intentions that aren't made known up front. So you can't just operate in your normal capacity like you used to do. That's just not possible anymore.
And I need to have security for it, because I don't know what people's intentions are.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've been some places, and I had to have security around, and I'm like, I have to tell her, listen, security is like a foot behind you. So when they need you to move, you got to move. When they say, let's go, it's time to go. Because they're looking at me, because they know if something happens to her, something's going to happen to them. Yeah. So I'm constantly relaying back to them, like, yeah, you got your eyes on her, right? Like, yeah, we got her eyes. She's fine. Just do what you got to do. But it's hard people don't always understand. It's hard to do your job when you don't know what's happening with your spouse, because I know what kind of spaces I'm in.
And in all honesty, most people don't take their spouse to work. So
and I'm probably the only one, just to be quite honest, I'm probably the only one that does that.
Yeah. Which speaks volumes. I mean, it speaks volumes. That's why I said, we admire you all, being in the space that you all are in.
Right.
But then, like my husband said, he said, you are like the epitome of kingdom couples, because you still maintain your integrity, regardless of where you are. And we briefly talked about it at the shop. I hate to say shop, boutique, but I mean, it's so upscale. I mean, it's not a shop. It's up. It's so, but we talked about it. And so one of the things that I love is that regardless of the space you are in, you maintain your integrity, and you talk highly, like he speaks so highly of you. And I honor that. And so to hear that, regardless of whether she's with you, if you out with him, because I can only imagine the things that you see, when he's out, with the other guys, and even in just doing business, like you have to see so much. So I honor that, because a lot of women, we talked about this before, where a lot of men are so focused on ministry, or so focused on, they're married to the ministry, or they're married to their business, and their wife suffers, but I can see with you all that there's no suffering. As a matter of fact, there's some benefits to it, So That's
Mike has, thank you for that. Mike has always, in every career, in every space he's been in, put me first. The Silver Fox Squad stuff, believe it or not, the most challenging thing for me was him becoming a reverend. At the place and point where he became a reverend, I felt like, okay, this ain't no play no more. This is very serious. This is God's calling. And we're responsible for not just our behavior, but how we present ourselves and how we treat others from here on out. That, to me, is a heavier charge than any industry or job he will ever be placed in. Ministry, at the top of the list. When you're doing work for God and you're responsible for the things of God, you can't be half-stepping and playing around about that.
So can I ask you this, Steph? Is it all right if I say Steph or Stephanie?
Yeah, that's what everybody calls me. Yes.
Okay. How is it for you, or how important is it for you to maintain that balance between ministry, the professional Michael Johnson, and then Babe? Like how do you effectively manage all of that and to make sure that you maintain that healthy balance to make sure that you guys are good?
So those auxiliary things that you named, that's a title that other people put on him. To me, he's my husband. He's my covering first. He's the man that God has given to me first. So for me, that's how I always see him. That's how I always operate in that space with him. And then those added extra things that come along with him, we just maneuver and add them to the mix of things that we do. And I've had to share him from day one with our children, which was probably the hardest thing. It was us for so long by ourselves. I'm glad to be back to ourselves, with the exception of the dog.
Yeah.
So
I understand.
Just take the time out to have quality time with each other. We do a lot of things together when he's around and available. And then we have our own separate lives and hobbies and things that we like to do that fulfill us outside of each other. And then we come back together and we do our thing. So that's how we keep our balance. Or I keep my balance.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good evening, Pastor Sherry Bridges, Elder LaShawn Sam, and Apostle Marvin Prevost. Thank you so much for being on. Please share. Mike, I want to ask you that same question, and how do you make sure that everything is covered and that you can be everything, be all things to all people.
But especially to Stephanie.
Right.
Yeah.
This some days are challenging. Some days, to be quite honest with you, some days are more challenging than others because, one of the things about being in the Silver Fox Squad, people don't realize God can call you into whatever, right? And when he calls you, it doesn't mean that you stop being who he called you to be. Whether I'm in Hollywood, I'm in Beverly Hills, I'm in New Orleans, I'm in DC, I'm wherever. I'm still called to do what he called me to do. I'm very clear about my calling, which I want to make sure that people understand is I don't care what environment you see me in. I don't care who you see me around. Just know that I'm still anointed. Just know that I'm still called. Just know that I'm still operating in the office that he's called me to operate in. That doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the environment. That's it. Nothing else changes. I'm still called by God, and I still take that calling very seriously. Anybody who knows me, if you talk to me for 10 minutes, you know that I'm an ordained reverend. You may not hear me say Reverend Johnson, but you can certainly hear and feel it. And I make sure that that's the case. I don't play around with that. And so that is probably one of the more bigger challenges, not necessarily for me, but for people, right? Because people who know you sometimes, they don't want you to, for whatever reason, walk in your calling. And if we really just put it where it really is, there's a lot of haters out there. I know they wish they could switch positions with me and do what I'm doing, but I'm just here to say, I ain't switching positions. I ain't going nowhere. You can say what you want to say. Me and God got it right. I understand exactly where he wants me to be and what he wants me to do. And then, man, everything else kind of falls into place. The biggest outside of my calling, My wife is my next biggest priority. And then the other things kind of fall in place. So I take care of her. I take care of God's business first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take care of her. And then I take care of all the other things after that. And taking care of God's business and her, that's a tall order. Right? The other things, believe it or not, are not as tall of an order as you might think it is. Because I realize in this day and age, man, there's so many competing interests, right? You got people, and I'm very clear about this, women, as I've gotten older, especially, in the last 4 years, I understand a lot about how women operate.
Mm-hmm.
I really understand how women operate. And I understand there's some very desperate women out here. I'm just putting it where the ghost can get it now. If we could just be transparent and do that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of thirsty women out here. It's a lot of thirsty men out here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I'm just saying this to say to people, I'm not gullible. I see what's going on. I have a job to do when I'm out here in public. And so I'll play the little game. You know what I mean? Like I'll let it go but so far. And I tell people, women, listen, you can't come but so far in my face, all touching, all these kinds of things. I can't get into all that. I'm married. And whenever I'm out, one of the first things you'll hear me holler is I'm married.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll see me disappear. That's why sometimes if you're looking at things, you'll be like, where's Mike at? I know who I am, right? I know I'm married. So sometimes I'll disappear to the back and let the other guys come to the front. Why? I don't need that kind of attention.
Yeah.
I need it to do what it needs to do for that time being, but I don't need that kind of attention. I heard it said one time, Pastor Jenkins said, man, if it ain't for sale, take the sign down. I don't have a sign up over my head or hanging on my neck and saying for sale or for rent or any of these other kinds of things. So I'm very clear, and I tell people, when I say I'm married, I mean I'm married. Like I love my wife. I like my wife. I'm not going anywhere. Like that's not something, I'm not in it for that. I was pretty popular before the Silver Fox Squad. And of course, the Silver Fox Squad made my popularity wildly more popular. But so I'm not new to this. So I understand what's going on here. But I try to make sure I still take her on dates. I make sure that I take her on vacation. I make sure that if she wants to travel with me as much as I can, she can go with me and do some of those kinds of things. Because I want her to see some of these things as well, right? As I'm traveling, because I'm going to places I've never been.
Yeah.
Then sometimes, she understands I can't take you everywhere with me. Like this is my job. And like she said, when you at work, your job ain't gonna always let you take your spouse or your loved ones with you to work with them. This is a job. It's a fun job at times. Sometimes it isn't, but I can't take you everywhere. But where I can take you, I'm going to take you. Mm-hmm. So there are some fringe benefits to that. So I try to make sure I balance that way. Of course, with kids, we have grown children. So of course, that's not a factor. So it makes it a lot easier to be able to do all of these other things in addition to, that. The only thing I am missing out on, and I will say this is, I don't get a lot of time for myself. Like me, Mike Johnson, where I used to get some time because I ride motorcycle. You don't notice that I'm a biker as well. So I own a Harley Davidson. I'm like one of those guys, biker. You probably couldn't even imagine, but I'm that kind of guy. Biker, the black leather, the boots, all that kind of stuff. And I enjoy that, but I don't get a chance to do it as much. And people ask me all the time, like, man, you gonna get back? And it's hard to do it because of the industry I'm in. Because if I get hurt doing that, then I can kill my career. So I got to be So I'm very, very careful about killing my career. I don't want to kill my career. I got to still provide for my wife and myself, right? So I'm very cautious about it, but I miss it. Oh, I miss it. I absolutely miss it.
So
but I still have friends that I go out with, hang out with, do things with. So it kind of somewhat takes the place of it, but not that part of it. That's the part I really miss.
So in all of the balancing between ministry, between business and marriage and Silver Fox and all of this, there's still something off, and that is finding the time for yourself. That's a little bit. That's amazing, but it also still speaks to just how giving you are, right? Because one of the things that I know about a lot of men, especially men who are God-fearing men who, take care of their families, love their families wholeheartedly, they always put themselves on the back burner, so to speak. because they make sure you know, wife is okay, they make sure the children are okay, you know, and all of that stuff. So I know, you know, as I know for me, like for my husband, I always, you know, during the pandemic, I would just out of the blue, you know, plan a trip, you know, to get him away, because he was always thinking about us first, you know, always buying for us first. So it's to hear that with everything that you do and still having balance, to still not find that time all the time for yourself. It is something, but it speaks to your heart, and it speaks to, you know, just what you're doing in the kingdom, because like you all are doing kingdom like on a different level than anything. And so yeah, try to carve out some more time for yourself.
Yeah, I do, but
you find time.
Yeah, but you, like you said, I mean, as a man, as a father, as a husband, as the priest of this household, you know, you understand that goes with the territory, right? You understand that the biggest parts of you, or some of the things that you might want to do, you're gonna have to sacrifice so other people can do, right? So that my kids and my future grandkids, because honestly, you know, I know I'm 54. So at this stage of my life, I look at life a lot differently than I did before I was 50. For me, I'm in a legacy building business now.
Oh, say that. Elaborate on that, Mike. Elaborate on that, please.
Yeah. So I'm in the legacy building business now. I am I'm more focused and concerned about my grandkids' future and about their grandkids' future and their grandkids' future. That's where I'm at with my children's future. I'm more concerned about that. God has blessed Steph and I with a lot. And I'm also concerned about her, so please don't get me wrong. I'm concerned about our future as well. But at this point in time, I'm thinking about all of those things because I know how good God has been to me. And I understand the responsibility that I have to make sure if the Johnson family is to thrive, I have to do my part. So sometimes a lot of times I do things not thinking necessarily about me, but I'm thinking about my wife. I'm thinking about my children. I'm even thinking about my parents, right? I'm thinking about how and what do I need to do to take care of them in the next 2 to 5 to 7 to 10 years today, right? Like checking on them, making sure, although they can get around today, fine, but just making sure they're okay, right? And then my kids, although they're adults, I'm very still concerned about their futures because I know how hard it is out here for us. And I know how hard it is for them because they haven't really gotten started yet. So my middle daughter is married. And one of the things I've come to learn, I want to talk to men for a minute. And I hope this resonates. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this Saturday. And I wanted to talk to you about it, but we just didn't have the time or the space because of what was going on. But I've come to love my son-in-law. And I say that because my son-in-law asked me to marry my daughter 3 times. I told him no twice. And it wasn't until my daughter was the one who, she was like, she didn't know that he was asking. And because they would have probably got married sooner. And I just felt like, you know, man, my daughter just graduated from college. I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of energy getting my daughters to the place where they have become grown women. They can pretty much write out their own futures. I don't want anything to get in their way. I want them to live and then get married. But for my middle daughter, that wasn't the case. She knew she wanted to marry. This guy knew he wanted to marry for 6 years before they got married. And so the last time I finally said yes. And in the last couple of years, I've just come to watch how he takes care of my daughter. So when he asked me that last time, I said to him, I'll only let you marry my daughter if you can make me one promise. If it's between your life and her life that you give up your life for her, you can marry her. And he said, I would die 1,000 times. So I was like, what can I do? So they get married. And in the last 2 years, I've noticed how he's kind of, I'm watching him imitate. And I'm seeing it out the rear view, but my daughter's telling me, my daughter's saying, Daddy, he's watching you. My wife is telling me, my other daughters are telling me. And I'm like, well, now that I see this, I owe it to him to help him become the better version of me, right? And I have to do that because he's taking care of a version of me,
Of you.
my daughter,
Wow.
right? So I feel I have to do everything in my power to help him become who God intends him to become. Now, not that he doesn't have a father, because he does, but there's some things that his father won't be able to give him that I can. And there's a ton more things that his dad is going to be able to give him that I can't. And so the things that I can give him, that I can teach him, that I can show him and demonstrate for him, I'm doing. And he understands that I'm doing this with a purpose. Like, you don't get to just get this. You don't get to just become, in my mind, a Johnson, although his name isn't Johnson, but you've been grafted into this family.
Yes.
Right, right.
And so we hold a high standard. So
Right.
because you grafted into this family, you get all the privileges that my daughter gets that I would never give to somebody else. So when I travel and when I do stuff, and when somebody says, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're going to a restaurant and you can use my name because you're my son-in-law. So when you go and you taking my daughter, you can't get in. You tell them I'm Michael Johnson's son-in-law. And he said, and that will grant you the access that you need. You can use my name in however fashion you can use it because you earned that right. And so I'm in that business. I want him to get everything he needs to take care of my daughter. And the one biggest, I'll tell you this about him. He did this one year and I was really surprised. He was, for Christmas one year, I remember he bought all of us a gift for Christmas. This is before they was married. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, this is crazy. This young boy is buying all of this stuff for all of us. He thought enough, not just of my daughter, but of us as well. Then the gift he got our daughter, he got this diamond necklace. I was like, what's going on? Right? Because I was like, hold on a second. This is a lot right here. And then he gave everybody else stuff. And just been a good young man. He actually, when I finally said yes, he was deployed in Africa. He sent me this picture, right, of this ring. I didn't know what it was because I was like, okay, he sent me this ring. I was like, what is this? He's like, this is the ring that I bought for your daughter. I said, you did what? When I tell you this ring is big as this girl's finger, wow. I was like, you, and I'm like, how did you do? He's like, sir, I had to save up all my money. I had to do all these other things. And I was like, this is the kind of young man that I want for not just that daughter, but for all of my daughters. And so again, I feel like it's incumbent upon me, you know, at this stage, man, I've learned so much, I've gained so much. I owe God to give it back to other men. So I try to make sure that I mentor men in general, because man, I didn't grow up with my father in my household. So I had to learn a lot of stuff on my own. Now I have my stepfather, who I also call my dad, because I don't want to cheat him out of any of that, because he helped raise me and become part of the person you see today. But I didn't have my dad in my life at an early age. I didn't get my dad in my life till I was 18, 20 years old. Till I was 20 years old. And so I always understood that, you know, for everything I wish I could have had in a father up to that point, at some point, I'm going to start depositing back in other people and other men to help build other men. Because I understand what it's like to want to have your father around and not have your father around. To want to talk to somebody about what you're going through, that who is you. You're part of that bloodline. If you saw I don't know if y'all met my dad. Me and my dad look just alike. And I know it's things that he's been through, that I've been through, that it could have helped me avoid some situations, but he wasn't there. And so I try my best to be a leader and a mentor to men as well as young men as well, because we still need that. Some of us are men, but we ain't grown. We just men. We men because of age and because of gender, but we aren't grown men. So I understand what it is to be a grown man. I've done this, and I'm doing it, and I'm around other grown men, and I too have had mentors as well. So I understand the impact of having a mentor and not having a mentor. And mentors are so important because they help you see and put you in a place where you can not just see a dream, but you can put your hands on it because you know somebody, you're in proximity to them. The reason most people or most men, I believe, don't or are not successful is because they've never had access or exposure to certain things. You know, the reason my mindset shifted a lot of ways about wealth and some other things is because God put men in my life who were wealthy. I could talk to, I could see the moves they were making. They let me walk with them in different places, see things, touch things, experience things, so that I could know what it feels like to be wealthy. I'll tell you a quick story. One of my friends, the guy Reggie I was telling you about, who helped me get the IT job, one time, this shaped my life a lot. And I hope this touches somebody. We were at work one day. He said, Mike, come with me. I want you to go to Neiman Marcus. I'll never forget this. This was in 2001. I had never been in Neiman Marcus, but I had been by Neiman Marcus. I knew what it was. I just never, because I ain't had the money. He said, come go with me to Neiman Marcus. So we go to Neiman Marcus. He says, I want you to give me your opinion on this jacket I bought. So I'm like, all right, cool. I said, what kind of jacket? It's a leather jacket, so and so on. We get to the counter. The lady brings the jacket out. It's not a jacket. It's a leather shirt. It's a Ralph Lauren purple label. I'll never forget it. Chocolate brown leather shirt, right? And she brings it up and she said, Mr. Jones, that'll be $1,200. This was in 2001 for a leather shirt. In 2001, my mortgage in 2001 was $1,200. And I said to him, I said, damn, you're gonna pay $1,200 for that? And you know what he did? He walked away from me. He literally just walked away from me. And I was like, I didn't understand what's going on. So I caught back up to him. He had a little attitude with me. And he said, man, I don't understand why you would say that. I said, Reggie, please forgive me, man. I said, I've never known somebody that could do or make a purchase like this. And right as I was saying it, this God's always right. God was saying to me, I'm showing you the position I'm getting ready to put you in.
Yes.
You're going to know what this feels like one day. And now keep in mind, I'm driving a Toyota Camry and I'm driving a Honda Odyssey. Those are vehicles I'm driving. And I'm saying to myself, my mortgage is $1,200. How in the world would I be able to afford to spend $1,200 on a shirt? In my mind, it didn't make sense. But again, God had put me in a place and around people where I could see these transactions taking place. And I didn't understand it then, but later on, I would come to understand it because the money I was making then didn't add up. But I was only seeing it right at that point. When God had a whole bigger plan for me to see, you're going to be able to buy that shirt and a whole bunch more, whatever other kind of things you want. And so that changed my life because I had access and I had exposure. So now I realize, okay, in the position that I'm in, I can't give everybody access and exposure, of course. But it's certain people God has identified to me and said, hey, you need to show them a couple of things. You need to talk to them about a couple of things. You need to let them see how things work. And what I've learned is, in having all of those things, the one thing that you must have in life is your name. And you talked about this, Talita, integrity. Because I can't tell you how many times I have had to have my wife and kids travel without me, but could use my name without money, and they could go and do things knowing that it was going to get taken care of. Right? And other people that if they mention my name, if I let them, what kinds of doors it would open for them. So I'm very clear. My own father, and my parents as well. So, and I get it. I'm like, at this point in my life, I've done a lot, and I think I still have a lot more to do. But I now want to teach. I want to mentor. I want to build. I want to help construct men because the men of my day don't exist no more. It's a shortage. I talk to young women all the time, and they tell me how they want to be married, but the men ain't this. It's a little bit of that, but it's a little bit, the women ain't what they used to be either.
You know what, Mike, you say that, and that's why I keep just giving honor to Stephanie, because you mentioned, Stephanie, how when you were just 14, the things that you prayed for. I'm like, at 14, My mind wasn't hardly on that as a woman or as a young, a young teenager. Even as, I mean, I got married early in life, like at 20, but even, at 19, I still wasn't sure of what I wanted. And so for you to be that strong in faith, be that strong in knowing what you wanted, and then have Mike come along and you see all of this in him, that together. And then Mike, telling your story about, y'all growing up. And a lot of this is new for us to hear this. I mean, as many times as we've come to the shop and talk to you for hours sometimes, I mean, like for hours. But
and loving every minute of it.
Yeah, but it's fascinating because you have this chemistry, you have this thing that works.
Yeah, synchronization.
Yeah. It really works, where you have your wife who sees all of this in you and is a secret weapon herself.
Absolutely.
Because you have to be someone who can see and pray and cover and all of that stuff. So I there was something that you talked about, where you talked about access, right? And because you are a man of integrity and a woman of integrity, and because I know that that I don't know you personally, Stephanie, but you kind of sense in the spirit, has there ever been times where, because I know I do this with Jermaine, has there ever been times where you've had to say, you know what, from a wife standpoint, nah, this is a little shady right here, and you don't have to give examples, but I'm just saying, have you ever had to be that voice to say, you know what, I know where God is taking you, I know, what you're, being exposed to, what you're doing, or, but has there ever been times when you've had to say, you know what, I'm not feeling this right here, or I'm not feeling that situation?
So absolutely, absolutely.
Say that quickly.
I am very in tune and connected to the Holy Spirit. I will put that out there for sure. And I have been for quite some time. Even when I didn't want to be the Holy Spirit, like, listen, you need to listen. I'm telling you this. And especially when it comes to my husband, I'm always praying, always asking God to cover, protect him, give him discernment, keep him safe. And when that quickening comes in my spirit that something ain't right, I'm in God's face, and I'm definitely praying. And sometimes I'm even texting, calling my daughters, y'all need to pray for this. Pray that God would do this for daddy, or that for daddy, or this, that, and the other. Or I'll tell him, I ain't feeling that. Or you need to watch out for this person, or this person trying to be slick with you, or whatever it is, or this situation is set up. So yes, I'm very in tune to the spirit. But to be in tune with the spirit, you got to be listening to God, and you got to have a relationship. And if you don't have a relationship, and if you're not in tune with God, then you can't help your husband. You can't help yourself. You can't help your kids. You can't pray for your parents. And you can't intercede for anybody for that matter. So for that, I'll say to any and everybody, especially women, you need to be connected and in tune to God. And that needs to be your first relationship before you get into any relationship.
Ooh, you say that a little louder. Because and the thing is, because once again, going back to everything that Mike is doing, right? And you, like I said, you have to be secure in yourself, and the things that you got going on. Because I know he has things going on, but you have things going on too, and so you have to have that relationship with God just to stay sane in all of what you all have going on. Like, you have to. And I think some women, they kind of mess up because they don't have that relationship with God first, and so they either become absorbed in what their spouse is doing, and they feel, and they're neglected, or whatever the case is. So and to be in your situation, to have the type of marriage that you all have, you have to be so rooted and grounded. And one of the things that I think women don't always understand is the strength that we have. you know, the strength that we really have to be who we are, but then to also support our husbands. So that was just so major. And I hope the women all heard that. Look, stop trying to, you know, go out here and chase these men and these silver fox men and all this stuff like that. And get to know God and be with God and be secure in who you are before you get into a relationship with somebody. So that was
Yes,
a big
I don't think that's the last thing you said is probably the most important. And I feel like a lot of women, and I'm grateful to God that I've never been this woman. But I feel like you have to have a confidence and a self-esteem about yourself before you can share that with anybody you're with, whoever God aligns you with. If you're not confident and comfortable with you, then you always gonna be insecure, chasing after your husband or trying to keep up with your daughter or trying to live in your mother's shoes or whatever I've seen women do, or all of those things. And it's not until you get in a place of comfort and confidence in yourself, and you're trusted that what God has for you is for you. And He gonna take care of your husband. He gonna take care of your kids. He gonna take care of your parents and all those people you're aligned with. But you first need to focus on you and be confident enough in you that God is going to always have your back and God is always going to protect and keep you, no matter what and who comes and who goes. It's still going to be you and God, no matter what, at the beginning and the end of every day.
Wow.
So now, again, you guys have been married for how long?
28 years.
Be 29 this year.
Yeah, 29 this year.
Yeah, October 5th.
So 29 years. Can you just speak to people who have been married, who have been struggling, to couples who have been wrestling, trying to find that balance between husband, wife, parent, you know, speak to the hearts of couples from your 29 years experience, and I would like to hear from both of you all. Just a word of encouragement on how to continue to press forward.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'll go first. So from my perspective, I'm going to say, number one, unrealistic expectations is something that needs to be dispelled. You need to have open lines of communication. I'll say for myself, in the beginning of our marriage, I would say year 2. Even though we had dated for 6 years prior to us getting married, year 2 was the hardest year of our marriage for me because I felt like we had this push-pull relationship. And it was because we didn't know or realize at that point how to communicate with one another. And thanks be to God for Deron Cloud and Jill Cloud. They had a series at the time at their church. And they spoke about recognizing your personalities and your love languages and just the respectability and approach in those things from a God perspective. Yes, the temperament series. That was life-changing for our marriage. And I can say since year 2 to year 28, going on 29, we've been perfect. It's perfect to us. I'm saying perfect to us because everybody has their own thing. I'm not saying that we don't have challenges because we do. I'm not saying that we don't have issues because we do. We're human and nothing about us is perfect. But I'm saying in comparison to what it was year 1 and 2 to now, it's 1,000% better. And I think when I got rid of those unrealistic expectations and put down what I thought, this is what I think a lot of people get into. You look at your parents in their marriage, at least that's what I did. I based everything I had done up until that point. Oh, well, my daddy did this, or my mama did it like this. So I think this is how we supposed to jump into those roles. And that was complete. That was what my mom and daddy did for them. That ain't had nothing to do with Steph and Mike.
And guess what? No disrespect to her parents, but they not married.
No, they're divorced.
They wasn't married at that point.
No, they wasn't. So yeah, just letting go of all those unrealistic expectations and allowing yourself and your spouse to find your own individual self and recognizing and realizing that just because you have individual likes and dislikes doesn't mean that your spouse doesn't love you any more or less. You are still an individual. You're just in a relationship. with someone who happens to be an individual, and you're marrying those two things together. So in coming together, while you have your own individual self and he has his own individual self, you find those things that you enjoy together. Yeah. And don't stop creating and building new memories. I'll say that's probably the most important, because I feel like, especially during childbearing years, a lot of couples put their marriage on the shelf, and they just focus on their kids. And then after the kids are gone and do their thing, and you're looking at a stranger, like what? Like who am I and who are you? So I say, even in that journey, your kids gonna leave, and they shouldn't be the primary focus anyway. And yet, that's not even your job. Your job is to nurture them and make sure they are upstanding people in the community. But your real job is to love, honor, and respect your spouse. And you should never stop doing that. Not ever stop doing that. So as long as that's your primary focus, and you're balancing all those things with taking care of your needs, then your husband or wife's needs will automatically be met, because you'll be satisfied within yourself. And if you're a satisfied person, then certainly you can satisfy somebody else. But if you're just satisfied with you, it's going to be next to impossible to try to make sure somebody else is happy. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I'm just going to jump in real quick, and we're not going to go off on this tangent on this subject, but you just said a whole lot.
Listen.
When it came to honoring, loving, respecting, and taking care of your spouse, and then the children, because sometimes that can get a little twisted for some people. Yeah. You know, they like, it's my kids first. No, it's your spouse first.
Yes.
Because I always used to say, look, to our children, you all are going to be grown and out of the house and off doing your own thing. And at the end of the day, we got to look at each other. So we need to be happy with each other and be, and love each other and have fun with each other, because you all are going to be off doing your own thing. So thank you for putting that out there for all of the wives in the background, not taking care of your husbands, because people can tell you, like I always tell people, don't mess with Jermaine Presley. Don't mess with you. Don't mess. I don't care what you think about him. Don't mess with Jermaine Presley. And we have so much fun together. Like, we're together all the time, and I don't mind it. We have a good time. But anyway, Mike.
So repeat the question, because I want to make sure I get it. I want to make sure I get this right.
Just some encouragement for couples out of your 28, almost 29 years of marriage. Just some encouragement for couples.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Steph said, not a lot of, but everything she said is correct. But just to add to that, I think one of the things you have to do is respect the person that you're with. And respect them for who they are, and respect them for who they are not.
Ooh, sir.
Because a lot of times people, they in their mind project one thing on their spouse that their spouse is not, and they never will be. And you have to be able to live with the fact that's not who they are, sir, ma'am. You got to live with them for who they are, what they can do, and who they are, right? And I say that because when you realize that and you honor your spouse, you could literally help them become something they never thought they could be. And I'm gonna give you an example. I remember one time we were talking, and let me just say this, because we're not the perfect couple. We've had our ups and downs. Probably year one was our hardest year of marriage, and we almost probably didn't make it. And we've had struggles throughout, up and down. That's marriage. Marriage is a roller coaster, right? And you pray, though, that you're always going up as opposed to going down. That's the goal, right? And thank God, our marriage has been more up than down. And so I want to make sure we put that out there. But one year we were talking, and I asked her, I said, why did you stay with me, right? Because before we got married, I was into myself. I really was. We had to have a hard conversation. I was like, and I'm gonna say this to men. A lot of men don't understand or know who they are, especially when they're young, right? Especially when you're young, you see other people doing things, and so you think that's what you're supposed to do. right? I saw my father, I saw my uncles and other men in my family do things, and I thought that's what men did, right? I thought that was how men comport themselves. That's what I thought, because that's what I saw, right? And you haven't seen my dad, but my dad is at 72 years old. My father's a very, very handsome man. I mean, extremely, I'd probably never say this about any other man but my father. And I'm not saying it because he is my father. I'm saying because it's the absolute truth. At 72 years old, he probably could still
I've seen it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
With them women. I've seen it.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and so we had a conversation one time, and I asked her, I said, why did you stay with me? And she said, everything that you are and have become, I saw that then. And I asked her, I said, how in the world did you see that when I never saw that? The man that I am today, I never saw this coming. I never in a million years saw this. And she said, because God showed me this was who you were going to eventually become.
Wow.
And can I tell you, when you have a spouse that speaks life over you like that, do you know how much as a man you can do? Women don't understand too. You said this, and I don't know that you understood what you said. I'm assuming you do. That women have a power that's so much greater sometimes that they don't understand, and they mismanage the power. In fact, they piss the power away. And I say that because men are very simple. We only require, we have to have support. When there is no longer support in a marriage, it's over for a man. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how important you are to other people. The moment respect is lost, the support is gone, you've lost that man. And I hear so many women disrespecting their husbands. I don't allow women in my presence to disrespect their husband. I don't. I stop it. I correct them, saying, listen, I don't care what he did, what he ain't doing, who he is, who he ain't. I can't let you disrespect that man in front of me.
That's right. That's right.
It's a hard thing already out here, especially for Black men, to get respect and honor. But to come home to your household and get dogged by somebody who is supposed to love you, who is supposed to honor you, protect the peace at all costs, and create an atmosphere of somewhat of peace for you at your house, at your home, and to not get it, the man is going to be gone. And so I understand, you know, for me, that's what it's been. My wife has always given me that kind of support. I tell people sometimes my wife is probably more Mike Johnson than I am, because she has helped me see things and realize things and do things. You know, I could run through a brick wall for my wife because of the type of support I get. My household couldn't be what it is. Like all the stuff that you see me doing, you got to realize other things in the background are happening. And while I'm not there making them happen, somebody's got to be doing it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And she is the somebody who's in the background making sure that when I go out and I'm doing things, whether I'm at J.L. Michaels and I'm, you know, designing clothes, and I'm doing fashion shows, or I'm, you know, going here to see a client, going there to see a client, or if I'm with the Silver Fox Squad, making sure all my clothes, when it's time to pack, when it's time to make sure my hotel stuff is straight, you know, all my things are straight, to get out here and do that, to be the best I can be on camera. And she knows yes, I am being the best on camera for her, but other women will be looking. And she understands that's a part of my business. Looking my absolute best is a part of my business. And so as being a part of my business, the better I look, the more successful I am. While I'm successful, while I'm becoming successful, it's not just me, it's us. Her name is Johnson.
Yeah.
So every time a check comes in the house, it says Johnson on it. That's us working together.
And I catch them all.
And she does. And that's us working together to be this team. Right? And I understand, I try to make sure that I protect that for her, to let her know that while I'm in the street doing what I'm doing, I'm not in the street doing something.
Wow.
I'm not going to embarrass you out here. I'm not going to embarrass my family. I'm not going to embarrass my church. I'm not going to embarrass God. I'm not going to embarrass my clients. I'm understanding what I'm saying, the legacy building business. I mean, I'm at a point where now I'm very sensitive to everything because I've worked so hard in my life. I don't want to lose it over something so simple.
Wow.
Right. And I'm cognizant that I have children, I have grandchildren, I got parents. I sometimes, and then my wife Stephanie said to me, she was like, I didn't realize how proud my parents were of me until I had done a couple of things. And she said, you didn't realize? I didn't know. I didn't know that my parents would, I knew they were proud of me for things I was doing, but I didn't realize how proud. And it's something to see your parents look at you with admiration, like other people who don't know you and see you online and look at you like that.
Wow.
And I never realized that. And I'm, you know, especially I guess now as they get older, because, you know, of course their friends know who I am. So they, you know, they happy because they like, oh, that's your son. And keep in mind, you know, I'm from Southeast DC. So we didn't even get into all of that. I was born and raised in Southeast. So for some of you all who don't know Southeast DC is considered to be one of the worst parts of DC. We're both from there. And so, you know, I believe they talked about Jesus like that, being from Nazareth, Southeast, right?
Yeah.
Can any good thing come out of Nazareth, right?
Come on, sir.
Yeah, and so, you know, just coming from that situation to being where we are now, you know, I'm very cognizant of all these things. I pay attention to all these things because I don't want to piss away something I worked so hard for, one, but two, I want to be able to give my kids a chance to be able to experience all these different things. And I know if I play my cards right, my parents, I got a lot on my shoulders. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I realize how much is on my shoulders. Like I carry a lot of people on my shoulders.
Yeah.
If I fall, a lot might fall with it. So I'm very, very mindful of that. And my wife is mindful. I just always remind her, I say, hey, pay attention and just watch my back because this part of life we're into right now, God is going to do something that's amazing, but we can't blow it.
Yeah.
And you gotta look at me and trust me. Don't pay attention to what you see. Pay attention to me. Look at me. Don't worry about all the other stuff that you see because you're going to see a lot of things. You're going to hear a lot of things. Every single day I come home to this household. You can put your finger on me at a moment's notice. You got every password. You got every kind of thing to be able to connect to me in any kind of way. Now, I always tell people this ain't for everybody, but my wife has full access to my entire life. She can open my mail. She can answer my phone. She can go through my email. She can go through my accounts. You know, I oftentimes have to ask her, well, how much money do we have? Because I don't know. I don't even, you know, for me personally, when it comes to money, I'm like, my job is to make it. Her job is to maintenance it and maintain it. My job is to grow it. That's my job. That's my job. So sometimes I don't even realize it. But in any event, to encourage people, encourage couples, respect each other, honor one another. And I really honor my wife because I'm thinking if the shoe were flipped, I could do this, be in this position, but I don't know if I could. But I do understand this. She understands what drives me. Support is, as long as I got the support that I need, let me tell you something. I feel in my whole spirit, ain't nothing I can't do. And it's largely because of the support that I get from my wife. But I understand too, I don't know if I ever said this to you, but I remember one time praying about having a wife, because I did before I got married. I prayed about this. And I remember God saying to me, don't focus on what you want. Focus on what you need. As a young man, that's very hard to do when all of these things are paraded in front of you because you're focused on your want, not what you need. Most of the time, you don't have an idea of what you need. And I can honestly say this, that when I prayed for a wife, I know for a fact that my wife probably that I have right here in front of me right now, she wasn't, when I was praying for what I want, she isn't what I thought I wanted, right? And I say that to say, because this is how God does things. I know for damn sure she is exactly what I needed. But then this is how God does things. The thing yes, sir. The thing that God will let you see that you need will become the thing that you want and you most desire. And so as an older man, I know that's why God was saying to me earlier on, make sure you pray for what you need, not for what you want, because when you find what you need, you're going to get what you wanted. Not only will you get what you wanted, you will get more than what you want. And I didn't understand it as a young man, but as an older man, I promise to God that that is how I live my life. And I try to share this with young men because, and women too, you're so focused on what you want, but not what you need. You asking God, I want this, I want this. Ask God to show you what you need in a man and bring him to you. Because eventually the thing that you want or the thing that you need in a man, you're going to get what you want. It's all going to come out. I promise you it's going to come out. And I'm so glad that God let me have her as opposed to somebody else, because my life probably would be a wreck. So, you know, and encouraging somebody, other couples, let me just say this. Spend time with your spouse. Love your spouse the best way you can. Nobody's perfect. Don't desire what somebody else has in a husband or somebody else's husband or somebody else's wife. Desire that God would help you and your wife come to a place where you come to love, respect, honor, and cherish one another. And that's not always easy. But and let me just share this too with women. If I can just share this with my wife, advice for women. Sometimes just be quiet. We don't always need you trying to tell us everything. We heard you the first 10 times you said it. We got it. Nobody wants to be talked down to as a child. Nobody wants to be lorded over or lorded over. And I get being a strong woman, but listen to me. Hear me good. Hear me good. It's okay to be a strong woman, but save a lot of that for work. Save a lot of that for outside of your house. When you come home, we need you to be a soft woman. We need you to be a wife. And yes, we need you to honor us. We need you to respect us. And yes, at times we need you to serve us. That's not to say that we shouldn't serve you as well, honor you as well, respect you as well, and all those other things. There's nothing wrong with serving your husband or being a servant to your husband or a servant to your wife. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
Some people have so many problems with this, and I don't understand it, and I do understand it. But for those of you who are struggling with it, that's why your marriage is struggling, because you don't want to serve. Why would God put you together if that wasn't part of what he called you to do? That's serving one another. And that even means serving one another when you don't want to. At the highest level of when you don't want to. Remember, ultimately, if you're serving your spouse, you're serving God. God gave you that spouse. So why not treat that spouse that way? Why marry somebody you don't plan to honor, respect, or cherish? Why? Go be with somebody else if you think you can do it. Go be with somebody else. I tell my daughters this, all my single daughters this right now. You're doing well in life, but no man is going to let you just say and do whatever you want. And men have options and they have choices.
Yes, they do.
And so I'm just saying, don't do that. And one last thing, because I've heard women say, I get a lot of women too. I think I told you this. A lot of women ask me, can you hook me up with one of your Silver Fox brothers?
My friends ask this.
The answer is no. The answer is no. Because when you talk about high, what is it called? High value men. These men are all high value men. And they're looking for something very specific that most women can't meet. I'm just being honest. I'm just being very honest. Most women, probably 8 out of 10 women can't. And I know a lot of women think that they're this. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I'm just trying to tell you, high value men are very difficult to deal with. And I'm just gonna be the first to put my hand up and tell you, I'm not an easy win. I'm not always easy to deal with. High value men are not always easy to deal with because we're strong and we are very focused about what we want. And we are sometimes have tunnel vision. And we're not gonna let anything get in our way. If you happen to be a problem, we're gonna throw you to the side and keep it moving. And a lot of these women can't handle being with a high value man. Like I said, my wife is, this is why I say I pray and ask God for what I needed. If I listen to do what I do just in the Silver Fox Squad, most women 10 out of 10 women probably couldn't handle me doing what I do.
Mm-hmm.
10 out of 10 probably could not handle that. And these other men that I'm in these spaces with, 10 out of 10, because you gotta be very secure in what you're doing. And not only secure, you gotta push the person to be even better.
Yes.
Most women pull you back because they just want you for themselves.
Yeah.
You already got me to yourself. Why are you worried about that? It's bigger than that. It's bigger than you. It's big. We got stuff to do. I got goals. I got things I'm trying to get done for our children, for our grandchildren, for their grandchildren, and their grandchildren. Don't put this albatross on me to where I can't move and do the stuff I need to do, because I can't have that. I got kingdom work to do. I have to minister to people as well. That's one of my biggest jobs. I had to tell Steph and my daughters this long ago. Sometimes we got to go to church in 2 different cars, because not that I don't want to go home with you, but when God calls me to minister to somebody, I don't know how long I'm gonna be there talking to them. And the girls, I have no idea how long God is gonna call me to be with whomever, and you got to be okay with that, because that's what it is. So if y'all not comfortable with it, I get it. Go home, because God didn't call y'all till they called me to. So I'm not gonna put you in the middle of that. I'll take care of that. But just understand, this is also a job of mine as well. It's probably the top job, and everything else kind of falls underneath them. But yeah, if I'm encouraging, I'm saying I'm encouraging. I hope that was encouraging to most people, and you can make it.
It was encouraging, especially that last piece that you spoke to women. And I know our time is winding, because that is something that I have been sharing with women probably over the last 15, 20 years, because it was something that I first had to learn, right? When you talk about this mouth, and just how we can be, that was something that I had to, like, the Lord had to deal with me. I mean, seriously, deal with me, so much so to the point where I wrote a book about it. Because it was, and what's so just wonderful about this was he was the one that helped me get the book out there. It was a book that I had been writing for so many years, but it wasn't until I came and the Lord dealt with me and I got with him that I was able to release the book. But what you were saying about that place of peace that men want, that's something that I told him. I said, when we get married, I want our home to be a place of peace. Yep. I want you to be able to run, from the world to home and find that place of peace. That's why now a lot of times we home or we out hanging together, because I've tried to foster that place of peace. Now, are we perfect? Like you all said, no, we're not perfect, but we're perfect for each other and for what we have. And so that it may have stepped on a lot of toes, but I thank you for saying that, because it's something that I have taught to my daughters, and we have had their significant others who have come, and I'm not tooting my own horn, because it was definitely God, but they have come and said, Ma Presley or Mama Dukes, thank you for raising, your daughter to be this kind of woman, because they don't want the rah-rah. They don't want all of that, especially when they out there doing their thing. Yeah. Because they out there doing some major stuff. So I'm like, I've had to teach my daughters, like, hey, men don't want this, men don't want that, especially like, hey, be secure in who you are, So I'm glad you spoke to that. I know you stepped on some toes for those that may be on here now and that will probably watch the replay of it. But thank you.
Can I add one more thing in addition to closing your mouth? Ladies, please stop trying to manipulate men. Manipulating men is not going to get you anywhere. Them little tricks and them little games and that manipulation tactics, please. Thank you. Stop all that.
Touchdown.
The last time we talked to you all, when we did like a little mini marriage conference, you all dropped some nuggets and you dropped some. You did the same thing tonight.
Yeah.
Women.
Yeah. Here's my thing. for Kingdom Conversation, God strategically gives me who to invite because he knows who to bring in to speak to the heart of the people. And that's what I believe that you all did on tonight.
Yes.
Mike, if your daughters are on or somebody is on, make sure that they put your website in the chat. Drop the link down there in the chat so that people can get in contact with you. They can go to the website. They can see some of your products. I've been telling my bishop about you for so much and so long. And when he finally came up and he came there and literally like probably about a week ago, we were talking about you. He was talking to one of the deacons at his church. He said, man, listen, he said, I got to preach so-and-so coming up here in August. He said, I'm going to make it a point to get there. He said, when I got there, he said, it blew my mind. He said, I never, ever, he said, Jermaine had been talking about it. Mm-hmm. He said, but when I got there, it was totally above what I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. He was like the level of excellence. He was like the shop, the customer service, just the presence, the oil, the flow, everything was just simply amazing. So kudos to you, my brother. And
man, thank you.
And I need to say this from me to you. I lost my father when I was 9 years old. My parents were divorced. I never had a male role model. So that's why I appreciate you and for you just being that voice of wisdom in my ear. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? When I was looking for a male role, I didn't have anybody to look to. So I had to kind of figure this thing out along the way. But I thank God that I had the Holy Ghost and to lean on God for instructions and wisdom. But I thank God for him placing strategically along my life at 52 now. Men of integrity, men that I can talk to, men that I can look up to. So thank you for being that man of integrity, bro. Thank you so much.
Can I just throw?
It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. I mean, iron sharpens iron, right?
Yes.
And you know, you gotta be accountable to people, man, because otherwise you're just out here do whatever. One of my mentors literally told me, man, the only way you become a great man is you're accountable to another man. Mm. And sometimes that's other men, right? Who can you give permission to say to you what needs to be said and do to you what needs to be done, and you allow it. So you decrease in a moment and let them increase, because sometimes you need to be talked to. You don't always need to talk. Sometimes you need to listen, get instruction, and go about doing what needs to be done. So that's a two-way street, bro. That's not a one-way street. So if you see me walking crooked, it's your job to make sure that I begin to walk straight again.
Can I just throw this in here? And I'm going to I'm not going to say anything else, but I want to just speak to that, because every time that we have come to your shop, your boutique, the spot, it has always turned into more than just us coming to look at, what you have, buy hats, whatever the case is. It has always turned into ministry moments. And so I thank you for having that space. First of all, everyone, please support, because when I say excellence, it is excellent. Every time I walk up them steps, the first thing that hit me are the smell goods, the scents. And let me tell you something. He knows I love candles and scents and things like that. So every time I have walked in there, and it has always been above par, right? It has always been excellent, above excellent. So but it has also been ministry moments where I, as a woman, thank you, Stephanie, had to step back and allow my husband to have his time, with Mike, with Herman, and I like and I just like the other day, I just said, first of all, I was standing up because we had this long drive. So I was like, let me stand up. But then it was like, after a moment, okay, let me sit down because there was an exchange going on. And so I thank you for always being you, regardless, because we don't see Mike like us. we knew you before Silver Fox. Now that I'm really thinking about this,
Mhm.
you know, but thank you for being Michael. Thank you for being Mike. Like, and just being that same person every time. And regardless of you know, switching from, you know, showing us the hats, you know, then you'll jump into talking to Jermaine or talking to me about whatever. So I thank you for that, for just being you and being humble, regardless of what God is doing in your life. That to me is major. That speaks volumes, because it says to me that, yeah, we see what you're doing, we honor what you're doing. God has you doing some awesome things, but at the end of the day, you are Mike. You are who you are in every arena that you're in. And so I thank you. And I wanted to say for women, and I know I'm talking, but in those moments, I've had to just decrease and let my husband have his moments with his brothers, you know, and it was okay, even though I need to go and hurry up and give me some shoes. But I still got my shoes in. See, I still went and found the shoes I needed. See, but had I been like,
oh God,
I probably would have missed and got the shoes on sale too. So
yeah,
so
no,
anyway.
God is good. And did not mention this, and thank you so much. I appreciate that. One of the things that I maintain is I'm still the same person I was before all of that. I'll be the same person after that. I know as easy as it came, it could be gone.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to change doing what I did before. I got into all these other things. But one of the things I failed to tell you, and I should have mentioned this, when I actually and I was talking to Steph about this, when I looked for a particular place to open up business, I did ask God for a couple of things. I asked him for a place and a space that would be so welcome and warming that people will forget that they're in this place to buy something, and they could feel the spirit of God in the place.
Yeah.
So I asked them to fill that place with his spirit so that I would be protected as well, so that when you cross the threshold, that God, you knew God was in control. You could feel the presence of God, right? And I also promised God that if he allowed me to have that place, that I would first open it up for ministry and then open it up for business. Wow. And then he promised me that if I would take care of his business, that he would take care of my business. And so what I maintain is it's a place of ministry first and then of business, right? That's why you never hear me talk about trying to sell or pressure anybody into anything. I just believe God led you there, and he will lead you to whatever it is you want to buy. And Talita, you know that sometimes you guys have been there. Sometimes you didn't buy anything, and we were together for 3 or 4 hours in ministry. Yeah. And sometimes that's really what it is, and that's what it was designed. That moment or that time, that's what it was designed to do. So, my business is I can open it up 365 days a year, 7 days a week. I'm not limited by hours. I'm not at a place where I can only operate specific days, times, whatever. I'm free to go in whenever I want. So that means I can minister however long I want. I can talk about Jesus. I can talk about whatever I want because I don't have all of these boundaries that I have to be boxed in by. Yeah. And so I give God, as cliche as it might be, I give him all the honor, glory, and praise for allowing me to do it. And I love doing that part of the business, the ministry part. Because sometimes I realize that's just what it is. Yeah. It won't be a sale that day. It may not be a sale any day. It may have been just that person needs to come in, cry, talk, or whatever. And we sit down, we get through that, and they better off because of that moment. And God will take care of it on the back end.
And he always does.
And he always does.
Don't I tell you? It's always gonna work out.
Always.
It always
does.
Because you still in the same spot. you didn't have to close down, and any of that. And when you are operating where you're supposed to, and it's not always in those 4 walls.
Yep.
And you're doing what God has called you to do, he's going to take care of you. And so I just honor both of you. I really
we honor you guys. Thank you so much for
giving us the platform.
The platform. you know, again, a lot of people don't know because we don't talk about it publicly, but we're in ministry. Like our first ministry together, our first love is married couples ministry. That's what we do at church. So we love doing this. We love encouraging and ministering to married couples. Marriage is dying, and we want to see life brought back into marriage, and marriage is. And so anytime we get an opportunity to minister or talk about God and Jesus and the impact he's had on our lives and our marriage and our ministry, we want to do it. So thank you all for blessing us with the opportunity to even come on and do it, because we haven't done it so long. I always loved it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with that being said, again, Mike, make sure that they get your link in the chat, because I definitely want people to come by and support. I want to turn it over to my sister Stephanie and ask her if she would pray us out.
Absolutely. First of all, thank y'all again for entrusting us to come on here and share some of our wisdom with your audience. And we are now going to look to the Lord to have us take us out. Can we bow our heads and close our eyes? Father God, in the name of Jesus, we bless your name on this evening. Lord, we thank you for another opportunity to come and praise and serve you and lift up your name. Lord, we thank you for this platform. We thank you for your servant. We thank you, Lord, for obedience. And Lord, we ask for your covering. We ask that you continue to cover all these marriages, each and every individual and everybody that's represented in this space. Lord, we love you and we thank you. We praise your name on this evening. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Again, we had tonight Jules, True Kingdom Jules, in the person of Michael and Stephanie Johnson. When you get a chance, please go to his website, look him up. He has some phenomenal things there.
www.jlmichaels.com. Just jlmichaels.com.
Got it. And we love you, and we'll be back with another Kingdom couple. And again, thank you so much for being with us. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.